Halo Campaign Evolved has been a disaster of its own making, and now that the dust is settling somewhat, the cracks are showing and things are leaking. The truth's finally coming out, and it's not exactly a good thing for Microsoft nor Halo Studios. There's quite a bit to get into. I'm also going to talk about what happened with Marty O'Donnell later on, and how this also proves how everything is backwards. But firstly, Insider Gaming, as seen here, has confirmed that there have been layoffs at Halo Studios following the release of Campaign Evolved. Firstly, we have Nick here, who was a producer on Halo that was laid off after 6.5 years, confirmed by the guy himself. Another producer named Paul, as you can see, has also been laid off as well. Another layoff is this Caleb person, who is a software engineer, another person open to work. There's more, but the point is, as you saw, none of the people laid off were in big leadership roles, which makes this even more suspicious. So you're telling me that Halo Remake comes out, it doesn't do gangbusters, it gets flayed alive online in clips and more by pretty much everybody, and when the layoffs finally come, the people who built the game are being removed, but the people who made all the decisions are staying. How is that even a vote of confidence? All that means is that the same problems are going to persist again, and the wrong people are going to pay the price the next time as well. As Windows Central showed here, there are now reports leaking that the development behind Halo Remake was an absolute disaster, but that may be underestimating that term. Windows shows that the development of Halo Remake was so poorly optimized that Abstraction, that's a studio that was working on Halo Remake, they were kicked off the project because they kept missing their deadlines that were set in place by Halo Studios. This also meant that Halo Studios, formerly 343 Industries by the way, had to rebuild the assets in the Blam engine, which if you don't know, that was the original engine that Bungie made for the Halo game, so Halo Studios would eventually then use the Slipspace engine. But Slipspace is just Blam again, but more beefed up, even though now the entirety of Halo Remake was just done in Unreal Engine 5, a disaster of its own making, since Unreal Engine 5 has been making a lot of games come out recently that don't exactly run optimized, which honestly annoys me the more I see the engine getting used more openly. Of course, not every game using Unreal ends up running poorly, thankfully. Look at Fortnite, for example, but it is far too common at this point. But now the leaks are coming out from the disaster, and it's actually interesting, I'm not gonna lie. For starters, as bbomb.com, yes, that's a real website name reported here from a rumor circulating from Mr. Rebs Gaming, who has accurately leaked Halo content for years at this point, it seems that Microsoft might be exploring the idea of allowing Sledgehammer Games the opportunity to make their very own Halo game in the future. That's actually cool. Well, maybe, sort of. Okay, well, if you don't know, Sledgehammer does Call of Duty games. I don't think it's wrong to say that out of the three mainline studios doing Call of Duty currently, Treyarch, which is Black Ops, Infinity Ward, that's Modern Warfare, and then you have Sledgehammer. Well, Sledgehammer is known for stuff like Vanguard, Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, and I think they also did Advanced Warfare. As you're noticing, they're kind of do the Call of Duty games that don't necessarily become their own sub-series like a Black Ops or Modern Warfare. It's not to say that Sledgehammer is a bad studio, they still make decent games at the very least, but when compared to the other two studios, they are, well, in my opinion, dead last in terms of, well, who makes the best Call of Duty games. The idea of Sledgehammer making a Halo game, however, is interesting to me at least, considering again they are sort of the experimental COD studio, if you will. Plus, they have worked on every single Call of Duty game that Treyarch and Infinity Ward has done as well, pretty much in a support role too. So at this point, Sledgehammer kind of needs their series that they can sink their teeth into that is theirs, you know what I mean? I figured it would be Sledgehammer's place to do the World War Call of Duty era games. Maybe they still are doing that. But Halo is an interesting prospect for them. I think Halo done in the engine the Call of Duty games use, which is the Infinity Ward or IW engine for short, would actually be kind of cool to see. We all know that Call of Duty games are built for massive levels, borderline open world at some points. Like in Black Ops 7, if you played the endgame content for that one, right? Really big map. I mean, IW engine also prioritizes frame rate, which is obvious considering it's Call of Duty. And pretty much every single modern Call of Duty game from Modern Warfare Remake, all the Black Ops games and Warzone 2.0 even, are all done on the IW engine. Fun fact for you as well, originally the IW engine was based on id Tech. Yeah, you know Doom and all that? Yeah, that one. And the classic version of that engine that Call of Duty games use ran for about 15 years or so, until it was rebuilt in modern times in 2019, so the first time this engine was finally used was in the Modern Warfare Remake, also in 2019, which in my opinion is one of my favorite newer CODs from the modern era. And then eventually Activision, which obviously owns all these studios, well I guess Microsoft now does, they all got unified and using the same engine, so now all three studios could simultaneously work on any Call of Duty game before release. That happened in 2022 until now, so Sledgehammer Infinity Ward and Treyarch could all in theory help develop a future Halo standalone game, which is kind of interesting. The idea of the guys who did the zombie modes in Black Ops combined with the developers who did Warzone 2.0 and then some, plus their versions of multiplayer and heavily cinematic campaign stuff, and now take all of that, funnel it into Halo. I'm not gonna lie, I'm listening. I'm at least open to it. Can we at least admit that the way that Halo is going right now isn't very good? If anyone is going to get a shot at Halo, it's probably going to be the people who do Call of Duty. I mean, that's probably as good as it's going to get out of maybe id Software. I mean, maybe if id wants to cool it with like Doom for a while and do Halo, I would be absolutely open to that idea too. I mean, Halo Combat Evolved, as you know, has boomer shooter mechanics to it already. It perfectly lines up with how Doom 2016 was conceived, as we all know too. So if it's either id Software or Sledgehammer, I think anyone really besides Halo Studios, ironically, is a better fit at this point. I think we can all agree on that one. I did decide to look deeper into the IW engine since we're on the topic of Call of Duty doing Halo. So the IW engine is all about ultra realistic graphics, reactive gameplay, and fast movement. So if Halo were translated into the IW engine, it would likely turn Halo more so into a grittier, more realistic aesthetic, right? The physical rendering of IW engine would allow Master Chief's armor to feature extremely highly detailed textures, and IW engine is also known for volumetric lighting, as well as spatial audio, which is key in multiplayer for finding your opponents, as you obviously know if you've ever played Call of Duty. The only real negatives is a more restricted sandbox because IW engine is more about using physics in a realistic sense, meaning for example in the Blam engine, which Bungie developed for Halo, you would likely lose the bounciness of how warthogs would move in original Halo, and they would instead feel more like realistic Jeeps thanks to how IW renders their physics, which honestly is a trade-off for everything else, I guess. I think if the Call of Duty studios were open to doing it and they worked on their Call of Duty games with Halo as like their third pillar alongside Black Ops and Modern Warfare, yeah, I mean, I'd be for it. I think it could be a really cool idea actually, but like Halo but snappier gameplay, hyper realism could be cool. The other interesting leak from Mr. Rebs Gaming is that actually in early June 2026, Sledgehammer actually already brought a very basic prototype to Xbox leadership that was their pitch for a Halo game project. So this means that Sledgehammer has already been exploring the idea. Xbox right now has apparently pulled the plug for the time being on this Halo prototype, which is due to something called a blockout phase. That's the version of a game where it's very, very basic. We're talking like cylinders, rectangles on a map, everything's gray with no details or anything. It's just uses a prototype to show how the game would operate. This is how you vault, this is how you take cover, you get the idea. It doesn't mean that Sledgehammer can't or won't make a new Halo in the future, but right now it's being toyed with at least due to these leaks, which is interesting. What's also cool is apparently the supposed prototype for a future Halo game that may or may not one day exist could be fully multiplayer focused without a campaign, as seen here from Mr. Rebs Gaming again. The idea could be that Activision and Microsoft want Halo to return to prominence and become something that players want to play indefinitely. But maybe they don't want to focus on a campaign because it would be costly, instead moving Halo to a live service model where they can just do Halo. And if I could guess, bring back all the classic maps that you know and love, but they're all playable in one unified game. You know how Call of Duty has its own platform, which launches like everything from one place? Imagine that, but it's Halo. And I think being able to play Blood Gulch, Guardian, Valhalla, and more, but it's all there in the same game with all the weapons and everything on the IW engine with the realistic physics, the grittier graphics, and the snappier gameplay. And you level up, you get gun attachments and new armor skins and parts to put on your armor and progress through your battle pass thingy and all that. Yeah, I mean, it would sell. Who are we kidding? It would. Come on now. But something has to change, right? At least at this point. Because more leaked as well. This time from WCCFtech.com, as you can see there. Not only was Sledgehammer in this leak, it also turns out that over 15 whole studios around the world were actually working together to create Campaign Evolved. So if you didn't see my other Halo videos, this was a rumor leak kind of before, also from Mr. Rebs Gaming, about how Campaign Evolved was heavily outsourced to a point that Halo studios themselves were essentially not even really developing the game themselves in-house, which, well, they're not doing anyways. They were more so like custodians of the IP, as other studios would just make the game for them instead. Well, that is now true. The list of studios, as you can see here, is very expansive. You have Arrival, FX Chamber, Virtuous, that's the Oblivion remaster, Metal Metal Gear Solid 3 Delta guys. Ninja Theory even, that's the Hellblade guys. Turn 10 Studios, that's the Forza Motorsport people. Even Rare worked on that. That's the Sea of Thieves and like the Conker's Bad Fur Day guys. You get the idea here. The point is, it's pretty unmanageable, man. How does it take 15, I guess 16 including Halo Studios, to remake a single game with no multiplayer attached in Halo Campaign Evolved? And the remake is not only worse than the original, but lacks features that Bungie already implemented in the base game alone. And 15 or 16 studios cannot do the work of one single studio in the early 2000s. I mean, they truly don't make them like they used to, you know? You know when you hear about how like the Library of Alexandria burned down and then we as humanity lost hundreds of years of knowledge that is just lost to us forever due to that event? I feel like Bungie was like one of those books in a sense in Alexandria, and Halo Studios with all their resources and their connections could not recreate the lost knowledge of what Bungie did, because the library of Halo just burned down, man. It's crazy to see. Abstraction was also listed as a support studio, but they got removed. Their credits are still there in the special thanks section of Campaign Evolved's credits. And Abstraction, by the way, they were responsible for entire campaign missions in the game, from final polish, gameplay balance, and even more. Yet they were removed due to missing deadlines, like I said earlier, sometime in 2025. The leaks also claim that Project Echor, which was the multiplayer-only spin-off of Halo that was in active development, it's canceled now, was also, you guessed it, being completely outsourced as well. Allegedly, the outsourcing done on Echor, the multiplayer game, if you can believe it, was even higher than what Campaign Evolved was receiving, which is just insane to me. So if 15 or 16 studios is normal for Halo, how many then were working on this Echor game? Why isn't Halo Studios able to create anything in-house anymore? Well, it gets even more bizarre. As seen here from ixbt.com, the next Halo Studios game, whatever that is, I'm guessing Halo 2 Remake, is also being rumored to be heavily outsourced as well. You're likely thinking like me, what is going on here? Why is nothing done in-house anymore? Well, the answer is kind of bleak, but sadly very much on brand for modern Western game development. You see, the reason why Halo Studios is outsourcing their games so heavily is because for many reasons. For starters, this means the work done here is contract work, which means that Halo Studios does not have to pay these dozens of studios the same rates that they would get if they were signed on as, full-time employees. This likely means that Halo Studios, and by proxy Microsoft, do not have to deal with paying for things like health benefits or time off or sick days when it comes to the development of their games. So they get the work that they want from the developers on this Halo game without paying a premium, is pretty much what's happening. Now expand that idea to 15 plus studios and essentially Microsoft is paying a fixed project fee rate, or maybe even an hourly rate at best, per each employee on the game that is working, right? This means the price of remaking Halo 1, or I guess now 2, would in theory then be cheaper in the long run because of all of these legal loopholes, if you will. So not only does it allow Microsoft to get away with cheaper workers, it also allows them the ability to fire, or I guess lay off employees once the work needed for the project is done and nothing has to be paid afterwards. Because they weren't Halo employees technically anyways, they're just contractors in a sense, it's a legal way for big corporations to kind of just use their money and power to get work on things they need done, but it also proves that it's not working, at least in Halo's favor. The reason why Halo 1 through Reach were so good was because, largely speaking, Halo was created in-house by Bungie themselves. It means that the same people, more or less, had experience making these games, and it showed as each game came out. The problem here is nobody can reasonably be considered knowledgeable on Halo if everyone who works on it is essentially laid off as soon as development ends. It just means that you're restarting development from scratch again every single time you make something, having to train people up again so they can understand things, because you didn't want to make them full-time employees. It's bizarre to me. This is not how great games get made. Sure, the argument might be, well, the people who need to know Halo are still there, as in the leadership at Halo Studios, but those are the same people who steered this ship into an iceberg over and over again already, right? They got so much criticism that instead of actually addressing that, they just rebranded the company thinking that it would trick people. So we're getting rid of the people who made the games, but we're keeping the people who always made the wrong decisions instead. How does any of that that make any sense? The only recipe this leads to is disaster, that's all it is. But for example, Halo Studios used to employ people like Nick here on screen, who infamously said this on Blue Sky. I honestly don't think I could work on a game that glorifies or fantasizes modern guns, COD, Battlefield, Rainbow Six. I've had moments I've struggled with Halo, but the weapons and world is pretty science fiction, which creates a large enough separation from reality. Okay, explain this to me like I'm 5 years old. Why is a guy who is scared of guns is employed to make a game about shooting them at things? That same guy, by the way, as seen here, did confirm that he got laid off too, which is not surprising, but that's what I mean, right? Why are we even allowing people like this on franchises they seemingly have nothing but disdain for in the first place? What's the point? None of that's working. And yet when the original developers who made the games we love want to go out and celebrate their achievements on the games, what ends up happening? Well, the usual types lose their minds and they get banned. So you know Marty O'Donnell, the composer of Halo? Anyways, Marty, as the New York Post said it here, was uninvited from SAC Anime, a convention in America, because his views on politics were seen as unsafe for certain people that were attending the con, if you can believe it. I'll let Marty explain himself, so here's a clip of Marty from Geeks and Gamers. Please watch this.
It's not the official reunion. We did one of these back in May in Houston, and that was a lot of fun. So everybody was just thinking we were going to do that again. And all of a sudden, last night, I got this message that my invitation was rescinded, even though we had, Jen Taylor and Steve Downs both made videos telling the fans that they were going to be there, and that Marty O'Donnell would be there, and they were all excited to come. But sure enough, I disappeared from the website, and the explanation was weak, just horribly weak. It was insane.
It's absolutely ridiculous.
LGBTQ plus staff members felt unsafe with my presence there.
And as you saw, Marty was removed, and he was speaking to Jen Taylor, that's the voice of Cortana, and Steve Downs, that's Master Chief's voice by the way, about how they would all finally reconnect at SAC Anime for the 25th reunion of Halo. And you would think that they would allow the guy who made the iconic music, which is everything, but nope, he doesn't believe the same politics, so now he can't go to it. As Marty said it here, I'm very disappointed that SAC Anime has disinvited me from a Halo 25 reunion at their conference next month. If you thought we defeated cancel culture in 2024, guess again, but Marty said more. After SAC Anime made numerous announcements of my attendance over this last weekend, I was told I was being disinvited because I called Marxism an existential threat. They have removed me from their website and deleted all of their posts on social media promoting my appearance. This is what I mean. Not only is Halo cooked in terms of the design philosophies being nothing short of backwards and the DNA of Bungie just not being there, but the people who run things don't even want the people who made Halo in the first place, like what it is, in attendance if they even think differently these days. The entire franchise is a disaster at this point, right? Marty made the music everybody loves. The guy's Grammy nominated. You can't deny that. It's there. It exists. Everyone knows the Halo main menu theme and then some, but this is what I keep saying. This is why Halo can't exist the way that it used to, because Halo used to be made by people of different belief systems. I know, crazy. The freaking game is called Halo. I mean, the Ark, the Flood, John 1:17, like, hello? Any of this sounding somewhat Bible-like to you at all? But the people in charge now would rather hire people who are afraid of guns to make Halo and remove the people who actually made the classics, because they disagree with things like Marxism. Oh no, this is why Halo, right, is never really going to become what it once was as long as morons are allowed to hold the keys to the mansion. They would rather make a pale imitation of Halo that is awful, that runs poorly, and is made by contractors over trying to consult and allow the people who made the things you're trying to copy that we love come back to help again. That's why they fail. Marty's a nice guy. I've spoken to him plenty. He's not evil. He's a normal American man who believes the American dream is worth fighting for, but that's bad now. This tells you how much of a disaster this franchise and really the entire Halo community is right now. I would guarantee you that most Halo fans have no problem with Marty at all. It's just the insane fringe minority, yet they're the loudest, so here we go again. And this is why so much needs to be changed in terms of how video games or media is perceived and who's allowed to even contribute. I always hear people say, well, why don't people on the right contribute to making games? Well, they do. I've spoken to them privately. Trust me. Plenty of games, by the way, that these crazy people love and identify by are actually made by people they would want to crucify if they found out their beliefs for real. But they keep it hidden because those people are insane. Marty and many of the developers on the original Halo teams are right-leaning developers, and it shows. The entire game's plot, ideas, they all come from from Christian ideals. It's a game about shooting aliens trying to invade humanity's sovereign planet, for crying out loud, during the war of terror of all things happening IRL at the same time. So anyone who tries to act like Halo is some liberal passion project is a crazy delusional person that doesn't understand Halo at all. Marty was beloved by the games industry, then he said he was conservative. Now the games industry will never honor him a single award because of how he believes, I guess. That tells you what you need to know, that it's not just Halo, it's everything. It's all a disaster. This is why Western game development is such a mess. These people care more about politics than making you good games. They'd rather hire 1,000 people who don't know anything about Halo, as long as they all believe in the same socio-political nonsense that they do. This is why games in the West are not thriving the way that they should be anymore. It's crazy that people are refusing to hire anyone else but other crazy people, right? The lunatics, as they say, are running the asylums, and it shows. Because why is a Halo remake flopping when it had virtually no competition whatsoever in the middle of summer of all things? It should have done gangbusters, but it didn't. And what now? They fired developers, but not the morons at the top that are making all the decisions that have conveniently led to every bad call for the past 15 years and then some. It's a bold strategy. Let's see how it turns out for them, but I have a crazy idea. Maybe we should just hire people. I know this is wild, but let's hire people regardless of political views, who are just actually good at their jobs and know how to make games again. Microsoft is constantly searching for how to make a new Halo game work. The answer is pointing them in the face. Hire the older devs, get them to consult at least on what you do. Get Marty back, get some new Halo music made by him, bring in developers to train the people, or better yet, I know this is crazy, just throw money at the older Halo devs to open their own studio where they get to choose who they want to hire as well. A new Halo game should have dropped like an atom bomb. Instead, it's dropping like a dud grenade that doesn't work. Like Eurogamer, however, as you can see here, thinks the reason why Halo didn't sell was because it had no multiplayer. To a degree, I agree as well with that, but it also didn't sell because it wasn't Bungie's Halo. It was the modern audience version of something that ruined what people loved about it. I do agree, however, that a Master Chief Collection re-release would have done far better, because at least in that scenario, PlayStation users would be getting the Bungie Halo games made by Bungie with their assets, engine, level design, and everything else. Marty's music too, of course. And look, you can pretend to keep swapping the lipstick on this pig, Microsoft, but you have a few avenues. You either throw money at old Bungie devs and hope for the best, I guess give Call of Duty a chance to do Halo and see what happens, or just continue down this path with Halo Studios and watch its Halo becomes just like Star Wars did, where nobody cares anymore, and it's all because you guys refuse to let this franchise be what it should be in the first place, but it is what it is. Stop with the rainbow armors, the Black Pride Month skin sets, or whatever else. This is Halo. Now you're a corporate, like HR lady's sim save file, where she's going to throw all the virtue signaling she can think of to check all the boxes. Until Halo is no longer ran by Marxist morons who were afraid of shooting guns and want nothing more than to replace Master Chief with strong girl boss characters, the humiliation rituals will just continue. And Microsoft needs to stop pretending like Halo's problems came out of nowhere, because every time a Halo game disappoints or another restructure happens or developers end up leaving, people are always going to ask the same question, like what happened, right? But the question they need to start asking is, how do these people keep missing the warning signs every single time? Like, the warning signs have been sitting in plain sight for years now. Halo Infinite had troubled development just like Campaign Evolved did. Slipspace Engine had tons of problems. Leadership kept changing. Multiple creative reboots that didn't work. They are relying on contractors instead of fostering a real creative environment like Bungie once did. They cancel things all the time. They lay off the wrong people. They rebrand the studio hoping that you wouldn't notice. They go to Unreal Engine so they can outsource more easily, and it all leads to the same exact thing. A scathing identity crisis that has followed Halo ever since Bungie handed over the keys to the kingdom. This is not one bad launch or one bad executive. This is years of problems compounding themselves. And for anyone with half a brain looking at this, none of what I just said is even going to surprise you because you understand it and you get it. Just look at Halo Infinite. Craig the Brute, that became a meme overnight. The graphics were not good. So what did Microsoft even do? They delayed the game a whole year. It did nothing but buy them time. The leak still came out. Infinite had technical problems. There was creative instability. And oh wow, an over-reliance on contractors. Again, who could have seen that one coming? And all that ended up happening during Infinite's development was large portions of the game being cut before release. How is a studio like named after Halo unable to create a clear vision for what Halo is even meant to be? This is not a technical problem. This is and always will be a leadership problem. And all they have done for sure is lose institutional knowledge, as more people who knew what they were doing would leave Halo behind because leadership is awful. Can't blame them. I mean, remember Bonnie Ross? She stepped down. Pierre Hintz or whenever he took over, it was supposed to be a fresh start. It wasn't, because changing a logo was easy, but changing the culture, that rot that all also kicked Marty out of a convention? That's a lot harder to do, isn't it? Halo has had an identity problem, but nothing they're doing will fix anything. As long as crazy people hold the keys, the ship is going to keep hitting icebergs all the time. Maybe they're going to switch it up and hit a mountain next time, or like a beach, who knows? But all Microsoft and Halo Studios cares about is turning Halo into a live service thing like Call of Duty. It didn't work because they forgot what Halo was about. But at the end of the day, Halo can recover. Great franchises have lost their ways and come back as well. Resident Evil did it after the 6th one, and now it's amazing. Doom did it with 2016. God of War even reinvented itself for better and for worse. But these comebacks happened because these studios eventually settled on a creative direction finally. Halo could do the same thing, but as long as the people who are holding the ranks of captain on this ship keep steering this thing into more problems, the same nonsense will continue to happen. These warning signs aren't hidden. They are everywhere. None of this happened in isolation, and the audience has been watching this unfold for years in real time. So the next chapter, whatever it may be, does not need another slogan. It needs a game that reminds people why Halo became legendary in the first place. Because after like 6 years and then some of warning signs, fans aren't looking for promises, man. They're looking for proof, and right now, Halo is one thing, and that is a complete and utter disaster. And its troubled development and way of thinking is a reflection of how lost this industry really is right now. It doesn't mean it can't be changed, but we need to be adults and address it before it can be fixed. The ball is in Microsoft's hand right now, and I wonder if they're going to take Chief's words to heart when it comes to what they have to do.
What if you miss?
I won't.
Otherwise, the history of incompetence will continue until Halo is gone for good. But what do you think? Let me know. Subscribe if you want to. Thanks for being here. Do you think the Call of Duty guys are the right move, or do they need the OG developers? Let me know, and I will see you guys in the next one. Halo is cooked, dude.